Welcome to the tutorial on organizational behavior. This is the second chapter. In this chapter, we are going to learn about the diversity in organization. In this chapter, we are going to cover the following topics, such as we will learn about the two major forms of workforce diversity. Then we will learn about the key biographical characteristics and how those biographical characteristics are relevant to organizational behavior. Then we will learn about the intellectual ability and we will demonstrate its relevance to the organizational behavior. Then we will contrast the two types of ability, the intellectual ability and physical ability. After that, we will describe how organizations manage diversity effectively. And at the last stage, we will show how culture affects our understanding of biographical characteristics and intellectual abilities. So broadly, there are two types of diversity: surface level diversity and deep level diversity. As a manager, after understanding the types of diversity, you have to manage the diversity. Everybody brings differences to an organization where they work. These differences create energy and excitement in the workplace. But sometimes the type of diversity can also cause conflict. That is why it is important that we have an understanding of how diversity works in an organization. When we look at the diversity of the workplace, we can recognize that there are two types of diversity. Surface level diversity represents the characteristics that are easily observed, as for example, race, gender, age, etc. On the other hand, deep level diversity indicates the aspects that are more difficult to see at first glance, as for example, values of people, personality of people, and the work preferences of the people. In the organization, the manager should understand the diversity management for the purpose of eliminating unfair discrimination. By understanding what diversity is and helping employees with training and development opportunities, the negative impact of the discrimination can be minimized. That means, if the manager can understand the diversity and if the manager takes the initiative to manage the diversity, then the discrimination can be minimized, and that will ensure a good environment inside the organization to achieve the goals of the organization. What is biographical characteristics? Biographical characteristics are the personal characteristics that is also known as surface level aspect of diversity. That means the biographical characteristics can be easily identified. The example of biographical characteristics are age, gender, race, etc. It also includes the tenure, religion, sexual orientation. Age is an increasingly relevant characteristic as the workforce is aging. Study found that older workers bring experience, they have judgment, they have a strong work ethics, and they have commitment to quality. That means the older workers have required knowledge and experiences. But the perception is that productivity often declines with the age. In studying the gender in workplace, it has been found that there are very few differences between men and women that impact the job performance. However, the women, especially those with preschool age children, the woman who has a child, do prefer flexible work schedules, and the woman with child will seek an employer who offers options in their schedules. Race and ethnicity is another example of biographical characteristics. Race and ethnicity offers little explanation for differentials in the workplace outcomes. It has been shown that people in the workplace do identify more with people like themselves. So in some cases, there may be opportunities given to people based on the fact that they are like their supervisor. Tenure refers to the length of time people have been on the job and is tied to seniority. Often, tenure is seen as a positive as it signifies that people are happy with their employment because they have remained in their job for a long period of time. Therefore, employees with long tenure tend to be more productive, and the people who are staying with the organization for a long time take less sick leave and they don't leave the organization as readily. That means the people with long tenure has positive impact on the organization because they are productive, they don't remain absent frequently, there is a lower turnover, and they are more satisfied. Religion is another biographical characteristics. Religion may also impact work outcomes due to the religious restrictions. In the perspective of dress and grooming due to religion, schedules may also conflict with the way work is typically done. In case of sexual orientation and gender identity, we can see labor law generally does not protect the discrimination about the sexual orientation. That is why the employer handled this issue differently. In case of sexual orientation, domestic partner benefits are important considerations. In case of gender identity, company tries to create cultures that provide a safe environment for all employees and for all cultures, free of discriminatory behavior. Although it's a relatively new issue, the gender identity is a relatively new issue. Sometimes people are becoming conscious about the transgendered issue, but sometimes people misuse this word. What is ability? Ability can be defined as an individual's capacity to perform various types of tasks in the organization. When the ability is categorized, we can see there are two types of ability: intellectual ability and physical abilities. The intellectual ability indicates the ability to perform mental activities. We can see there are two types of abilities: intellectual abilities and physical abilities. There are number of measures of intellectual ability available for use by the organizations. Two representative measures are general mental ability and Wonderlic personal test. The general mental ability takes a look at overall intelligence, and GMA is generally recognized by the researchers. On the other hand, the Wonderlic personal test is generally used as a quick measure of intelligence in the hiring process. Most of the time, it takes less than 10 minutes to complete the underlik personal test. Depending on the requirement of the job, intelligence test can be used to predict success on certain job tasks. However, there is no correlation between intelligence and job satisfaction. And physical ability is the second factor of ability, and it represents the capacity to do tasks demanding stamina, dexterity, strength, and similar characteristics. We can see there are different types of intellectual ability: number aptitude, verbal comprehension, perceptual speed, inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, spatial visualization, and memory. Number aptitude is the ability to do speedy and accurate arithmetic and will be effective in jobs that requires mathematical ability, as for example accountant. Verbal comprehension is the ability to understand what is read and what is heard, and the relationships of words each other. This ability, the ability of verbal comprehension, will be helpful in jobs where the manager needs to understand policies in order to carry out their job task. Perceptual speed is the ability to identify visual similarities and differences quickly and accurately. This perceptual speed is helpful when an employee is to take in a lot of information and make decisions about the patterns. As for example, the detective or inspector need this quality, the perceptual speed. The inductive reasoning is present when an individual can identify a logical sequence in a problem in order to help finding a solution. An employee who needs to make decisions about the future based on historical information will need this inductive reasoning ability. The deductive reasoning ability is the ability to use logic and assess the implications of the argument. When making choices between two different possible solutions to a problem, a manager would need to call upon their deductive reasoning skills. The spatial visualization is when someone can imagine how an object would look if its position in space was changed. An employee who needs to make decisions about the office setup or interior design would need to have a high level of spatial visualization ability. And the last one about the intellectual ability is memory. Memory is the ability to retain and recall past experiences. Individuals who need to act quickly in a situation, such as paramedic or nurse, would need a significant degree of memory ability. Now we are going to discuss about the types of physical abilities. We can see there are 9 basic physical abilities which are categorized into 3 aspects. The first one is strength factors, which includes the dynamic strength, trunk strength, static strength, and explosive strength. And in case of flexible factors of physical abilities, we can see there are 2 types of flexibility factors. One is extent flexibility, another one is dynamic flexibility. Considering the other factors of physical abilities, we can see body coordination, balance, and stamina. So these are the 9 factors of physical abilities. If we can repeat, the 9 basic physical abilities are dynamic strength, trunk strength, static strength, explosive strength, extent flexibility, dynamic flexibility, body coordination, balance, and stamina. When an organization discusses abilities, it can cause difficulty when developing policies that recognize diversity in terms of disability. While it is important for the organization to strive for diversity in the hiring process. It is important to be careful to avoid the discriminatory practices during the hiring process by making generalizations about people with the disabilities. That means, as a manager, whenever you are recognizing diversity, you have to be cautious about the disabilities, because the policy should be developed to avoid the discriminatory practices, and it can be done by developing the policies of generalizations about the people with disabilities. So up to the previous slides, we have learned about different types of abilities, different types of characteristics. But knowing the people are different is not enough for the organizations to operate effectively with differences. Managers must work to develop strategies, to develop ways to utilize the differences to achieve work outcomes. Managers should start by attracting, selecting, developing, and retaining employees who can operate and excel in a workplace with diverse individuals, viewpoints, and ideas. Gaining a diverse workforce through the selection process and developing that workforce through organizational training and development programs will help to provide an environment that fosters creativity and effectiveness by tapping into the potential of all employees. More and more organizations are requiring employees to work in groups. Diversity can aid in group effectiveness. Organizations must provide the tools to leverage the differences to obtain superior performance. Effective workforce programs that encourage diversity contain three components. First, they teach managers about the laws they need to follow and equal employment opportunity requirements. Second, they help managers and employees to see that a diverse workforce is better able to serve the diverse markets. And the third component is they take into account personal differences and approach the differences as strength that can be utilized to enhance performance. Considering the globalization effect, there are many differences in biographical characteristics across cultures, but there is no evidence to support that there is a global relevance to the relationships we looked at in this chapter. Countries do vary dramatically on their biographical composition, but it doesn't affect the productivity if the managers can effectively manage the diversity. The study found that structures and measures of intellectual abilities work in many different cultures. As well as diversity management is important in all cultures. However, each culture does approach diversity differently. For example, the type of demographic variables used to identify diversity varies in each culture. Now we are going to summarize the chapter. The focus of this chapter is on diversity in the workplace, and we can see diversity due to ability, diversity due to biographical characteristics, and the manager should focus on diversity management. Ability directly influences the employee's level of performance, and that is why managers need to focus on ability in selection, promotion, and transfer. The manager should fine-tune job to fit the incumbent's abilities. And in case of biographical characteristics, managers should take initiatives to avoid the discrimination due to biographical characteristics by taking effective measures. And for ensuring the diversity management, there must be an ongoing commitment at all levels of the organization. There should be policies that should include multiple perspectives, and the policies should be for long term in their orientation to be effective. Diversity will exist in the organization, And as a manager, you have to manage the diversity to ensure productivity. Thank you.